Welcome to Getting Started Recording with Reaper. In this video, we will focus on project organization. You will learn why we're talking about project organization right now, and 5 basic tips to help you get the most out of your recording sessions. You may wonder why we're talking about project organization right now. After all, you're probably anxious to get in there and just record some basic ideas. The reason we're talking about project organization now is that you'll quickly find that 2 tracks become 10, which become 20, which become 40, and so on. Without a project organization strategy, the very tool that was supposed to capture your creative ideas becomes a barrier and a frustration that prevents you from doing so. I have certainly been there, so I'll share some basic tips that I've learned that I found immensely helpful as I record projects. Tip number 1, use a consistent track order. When your tracks start piling up, it can become difficult to figure out which track was that perfect take, or where that random track is that you hear playing back in the mix. To help with this, I have a consistent track order that I use for my projects. My track order typically reflects the order in which I'll mix the song. I always start with drums up top, and that's always where I start my mix. After that, I'll have bass, and then between drums and bass, I have a good loudness level for the rest of my mix. And then after that, I'll have keys and other accompanying instruments, and then guitars. And then finally at the bottom, I'll have my effects. The music I typically write doesn't include vocals, but when a project does include vocals, I'll typically place them above the drums. The second tip is to use track folders or parent and child tracks. You can see that I have a lead guitar V2 as a parent folder here, and then there's 2 child tracks underneath, take 1 and take 2. There's audio on both of these tracks, and the guitar sounds are very similar. However, I don't want to have to mix each of these tracks individually or apply redundant effects. And that's exactly where a track folder comes in. Anything I apply to the parent folder will apply to the child tracks underneath. This includes the volume, any effects such as EQ and compression, and where I route them to as well. And this brings us to tip number 3, manage track visibility using Track Manager. The track control panel is designed to capture audio during the recording process, while the mixer control panel works best for mixing that audio after it has been captured. The general principle that I use is to show all active tracks in the track control panel, while only showing those tracks that I will mix in the mixer control panel. To manage track visibility, go to View, and then go down to Track Manager. In Track Manager, you will see the names of all your tracks and the track number, and then you'll also see which tracks are visible in the track control panel and the mixer control panel. If we scroll down to the lead guitar track here, you'll see that all are visible in the track control panel, while only lead guitar V2 is visible in the mixer control panel. Adjusting track visibility can drastically simplify the tracks in your mixer control panel, making the process of mixing much less frustrating. Tip number 4 is to use track templates. As you create more and more projects, you'll find that you consistently use the same settings for similar tracks. For example, I typically have a lead guitar track with takes underneath. I'll also use similar effects such as EQ and hide the individual takes from the mixer control panel. And I always record them using input 3 on my other audio device. This can be a lot to set up every time you create a new project. So to make life easier, you can set these tracks up once, then select them like this, right-click on them, and then from there go to Save Tracks as Template. Here are all of the track templates that I already have in place. You can give them a name and save them, And then they'll be available simply by coming down to your project. We'll come down to the end, right click, insert tracks from template, and then here we have my lead guitar. And there are those tracks with all the settings that we had up above. You can even take this one step further by saving whole projects as a template. To do this, go up to File, scroll down until you see Project Templates, and then Save Project as Template. You can see that I have two here that I use for scratch tracks when I start off a brand new project. The fifth and final tip is to mark out key sections of your song using regions. This will help you to navigate your song when you want to hear or punch in at a specific part. To do this, highlight a specific section of your song, and then go to Insert and then scroll down until you see Region. This will create the regions like you see up here at the top of the timeline. If you want to edit a region, you can right-click on it or Shift double-click. This is where you can change the name and other settings of your region. One tip is that when you're highlighting each section, make sure that you have Snap enabled. Let's review what we've learned. Using consistent track order, leveraging track folders, managing track visibility, creating track templates, and creating regions are just the beginning of project organization. However, using these should help you to get off to a good start so you can minimize frustration and maximize creativity. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button, and if you'd like to know when more content like this is released, subscribe and ring the bell.